All right, it looks like we're up and running, so I'll go ahead and get started here. Today is the 26th of January 2023. Welcome as you come in. I'm Roy Potter. And I like to do uploads if I can on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I don't always do that, but I try if at no other time. Thank you for letting me know I'm 5 by 5. Welcome as you come in. I appreciate you being here. This is a rather stark day. We're going to cover that. Please don't make fun of my lack of map making abilities, but I just wanted to have some kind of a graphic up here so you could see what's going on and what we can anticipate, in my estimation, here in the not far distant future. As a matter of fact, I think it's on the road to hell right now. Uh, I wanted to give a presentation tonight that would have some spiritual uplifting value to it. And I'm going to refer to Revelation 18 for those of you who want to uh, kind of tie this into any scriptural or spiritual discussion. Again, I understand the problems with the Bible in general, but it also has what we call repetition, type, and shadow. Even if you don't believe in it, it at least has as much information about the human condition as Shakespeare. It's at least that. So, Revelation 18 has to do with the murders that are conducted by the leaders of the world, especially those from Babylon, and the souls, the spirits of those who petition God for revenge because of the blood that these rich, evil, demonic men waged upon them and their families and their kin and their loved ones. But I'm not going to talk about it more than that right now. But I've talked before about how, if you know what preterism is that basically what happens, just as an example, what Revelation was about, the book of Revelation, the New Testament, was actually totally fulfilled by most preterists. They consider this at the fall of the Second Temple when Rome destroyed it in 70 AD. And there's a lot of truth to that. I've made many of the same conclusions on that. However, I also recognize that there are things that did not happen then, at least not in the way that you would think, considering the circumstances. For instance, Revelation 14, with the situation about pharmakia being one of the things that the rich men deceived the world with. We've really only seen that in modern times. And of course, in the past, at least in the historical past that we've been led to understand, mankind, at least in this iteration of the eon, um, we did not have the power to destroy all of mankind, or a large part of it. But unfortunately, those days are upon us. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'd appreciate if you would go read Revelation 18 and concentrate on what's going to happen to these nasties like John Bolton, Biden, Gates, Schwab, um, the deep state, all these people that have uh, used thievery, lies, deception, murder, intrigue to destroy people who did not deserve it. Okay, and that's exactly what the West is doing with this whole thing against Russia right now. Russia has been very patient, and unfortunately, I can now say, from my estimation, from all the information that I have taken in, that indeed, even though it was not Putin or Russia's intent initially to head west across Ukraine, I think at this point they've changed their mind, and understandably so. So I titled this video Pseudo Article 5, World War III. Article 5, the NATO Article 5 is that if one of the NATO nations is attacked, it's as if all of them have been attacked and they all have to join in. And technically, Article 5 has not been put in place yet, but that's just the technicality. They're acting, the NATO countries and others are acting as if Article 5 has already been instituted. As a result, Russia is responding accordingly. Russia has been attacked internally, not just the situation in the Donbass region, etc. And tonight I'm not going to get into all the reasons why this war took place, other than to say that the United States, Victoria Nuland, the State Department, the CIA, President Obama, the deep state, those people, along with the United Kingdom, Britain, set this thing up and started the coup in 2014. And there were things that happened earlier over the years to set it up so that Russia would be endangered. Russia did not act as an aggressor in this. This is not an aggressive war on their part. This is defensive. Even the United States has what they call a preemptive warfare doctrine. And yet, that's really not what Russia has. The attack on Russia was real, and the impending danger to Russia was real. The Ukraine army was built up by the United States and NATO to be the strongest army, military in Europe. The strongest. Why? And they even talked about it being used to attack Russia. This was no secret. Anybody who's been watching this over the years knows very damn well that that's what was going on, and people like Bolton, etc., are responsible for this. Victoria Nuland, etc., all these neocons who are really very, very evil people, and they all need to be arrested and tried, and the proper execution of judgment rendered. But unfortunately, there's nobody in the United States that's going to do that, or the World Court, or Interpol, or any of those, because they're all controlled by the same people. Might makes right in their estimation. Might makes right. Has nothing to do with your freedom, the freedom of the peoples of the world. Has nothing to do with that. Has to do with economic and military and even psychological control. So let me tell you what's developed in the last little while. What I'm giving you here is an estimate of the situation based upon all of the information that I've been pulling in over the last few months, actually the last year, and especially what's happened in the last few days. BP Earthwatch has put up an excellent couple of videos the last couple of days, Jesse of BP Earthwatch, explaining the situation. Of course, Alexander Mercouris, Alex Cristoforo, both with their own channels and on the Duran, have been explaining this, along with Colonel Douglas McGregor, and the New Atlas of Brian Berletic, the Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal. All these people have been giving this information. Patrick Lancaster, mostly on the tactical situation on the ground with him, but it kind of adds into what's going on, that nobody's talking about the attacks that were being made on the Russian-speaking people in the Donbass by the Western Ukrainians out of Kyiv over the last 8 years. No, they were talking about it before, but as soon as they needed to change the narrative to justify the war, it all became the situation that they're a sovereign country, and that, regardless of what the United States is backing Kosovo to pull away from Serbia means, it's not right of the people of the Donbass to want to pull away from Kyiv, even though they're basically an entirely different people. But I've talked about all that before, and just basically what it's come down to here now is a couple of things. Well, a number of things. Let me name these off. First of all, as in the First World War and the Second, a nation sends arms and supplies and supports one side of a conflict. They become part of the conflict. They are in the conflict. You can't say that we're just having a proxy do it and try to avoid it. No, you become an active participant of the combat. That's why the Bismarck was sung, the Lusitania, those types of things, okay? Because they were carrying munitions, those types of situations. and it was justified in the laws of war. I'm not saying it's a good thing. A lot of innocent people were there, didn't really know what was going on, and got hurt or killed because of it, because of the evil people that run this evil, evil world. And most of them are right here, or they're proxies over here. And this thing has gone back and forth over the centuries, but right now it's right here. So, what's happened is, of course, is that we've escalated to the point where we're putting more and more weapons, promising more and more weapons into Ukraine. So we have become active participants in this war. The foreign minister of Germany, Barbach, came out and said that, yes, Europe is at war with Russia. Now, that wasn't an official declaration, but coming from that high up in the German government, the foreign minister, that's pretty serious. And I'm sure Russia took note. As a matter of fact, they did. You also have the situation with the CFR. If you don't know what the CFR is, it's the Council on Foreign Relations. There was a panel that was put together here a few days ago, and one of the speakers was from one of these think tanks that was addressing the CFR. A woman talking like this, like Barbach talking about going to war with Russia. A woman doing this. Women are doing this. Not just the men. This is disgusting. So this woman in the CFR basically said that things have got to change in Russia. Oh, not in Kyiv, not with the most corrupt government in Europe, not anywhere else where all these corruptions and debaucheries are occurring. No, not there. No, we need regime change in Russia, and we need to have body bags of Russians. Body bags filled with the dead bodies of Russians. Soldiers, civilians, it doesn't matter. They hate Russia because Russia is a source of two things. Resources, three things really. Resources, morality at this point, yes. One of the most moral countries in the world at this point. And because Russia will not take part in the Western banking systems and refuses to take part in the New World Order. And I told you for a long time that it looked like to me that Putin was deliberately facing off against the WEF and the New World Order, and it's turned out to be that way. So those are the things that have been going on. Some of them, of course, they've escalated. NATO and the United States, different countries. I mean, Portugal today said that they're sending tanks to Ukraine. Portugal. Unbelievable. What is this evil force that is squeezing these idiotic Europeans into abeyance? What is it? Obeyance, not abeyance. Obeyance. Obeisance, I guess is the right word. Abeyance and obeisance. What's squeezing them into obeisance? There's some evil force, and it might just be the money and the vassal situation that's going on here. But when you consider the fact that what the United States has been doing to Europe, we have been dismantling the industrial capability of Europe for our own advantage. We've turned Europe into an enemy, and these dumbasses over here either don't understand it or are complicit in it because they're getting something for their treasonous conduct to the citizens of their countries. Or maybe Satan really is alive and well on planet Earth, roaming the earth to see who he may devour. And of course, I have a different concept of Satan than most people. Satan just means accuser, but the devil. Let's just say the devil. Is it down here where a lot of people, a lot of these different, I know I'm getting off on the weird stuff now, but this is odd. Senator Kerry came down here, both I think as a senator and as the Secretary of State. Came down here. A lot of world leaders have come down to the Antarctic. What the hell's going on down there? Is there something down here that's dictating to these people? Well, sure as hell seems like it to me. And a lot of it's coming out of this little country in the Middle East up here, which I can't mention. All right. So they're sending weapons. Now tanks are not defensive weapons. They're offensive weapons. So the United States can no longer say even though just supplying defensive weapons still made them a party to this war, now they're sending offensive weapons? Oh no, all bets are off now. Article 5 may not be officially declared, but it's pseudo, unofficially declared. They are acting as if it is declared because they're all ganging up against Russia and sending weapons. Soon they're going to be F-16s there, who knows what. There'll be incursions into Russia, killing Russian citizens. Oh, but they're killing citizens in Ukraine. Again, in my estimation, and in those who are really honest about this situation, Russia was forced into this. Maybe they took the bait and they shouldn't have, but frankly, I understand why they need to do it. Yes, there's DDoS attacks right now across the world. Your bank might not be available for you very soon. Yeah, B-52s have gone over. This thing's out of control. All right? But you know, the evil people in this world have it, can get it either way. They feel good either way. If a war starts and they kill most of the people on the earth, nuclear or not, they achieve their purpose in getting rid of humanity and taking the earth for themselves, however they view that. Stay in their little caverns until they think it's safe to come out or whatever. Or if the war is successful and Russia goes away, they still get to go ahead and subjugate the rest of the world. So whether everybody dies, they win. Or if they just are able to subjugate the entire world, they win. Do you understand why theirs is a situation where it doesn't matter what happens? It's a win-win. So getting back to Baerbock, the foreign minister of Germany, she said she's a Green. She's the Green Party in Germany. The Green Party was supposedly anti-war, as were supposedly the Democrats in the United States. But if you look at the Green program, it's a matter of fact. I don't want to mention his name here because I don't want him to have to receive any difficulties because of me bringing him up. But there's an individual who's very up on scientific things and what's going on in the world, and he talked about today the fact that the CO2 levels are around, I think he said around 600 parts per million, and that's still lower than it was earlier in our history. And I may be a little high there, maybe 300 parts per million or 400. But the point is that we're lower right now than we have been in the past, and the plants are suffering for it. The plankton in the oceans are suffering from it because they need CO2 because then they push out oxygen for us. But right now, it's down lower than that. It's dropping, and these idiots in the World Economic Forum and the climate change and all these people, they say they want to get it down to 180 parts per million. Do you realize that means that 1 out of every 8 people living on the earth today will die from that? And that is the end result. So the Green people now, the reason why they talk about warmongering, the reason why they talk about all this difference in energy, all this cutting down the food supply, stealing farms from the farmers in the Netherlands, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what they've done like at Bundy Ranch in the United States, all of this is a war on your food supply, and in fact is a war to kill you, to take you out of here, because they don't want you here. So, in effect, Article 5, even though it hasn't been officially declared, is underway. All these nations are sending weapons. And they're even talking about, of course, eventually, and they've already got boots on the ground there. There's no question that they're Polish. They might not be current military people, but they may have been resigned from that army and gone into the Ukraine. Who knows who's paying on both sides? There are Americans there. There are Brits. We already know all this. It's being funded by NATO. So NATO has already declared war, as the German foreign minister said today, declared war on Germany. It's on, ladies and gentlemen, and the Russians know it. So now what do? Oh, by the way, there was a large missile attack on Ukraine in the last few days, all right? And this adds in, of course, it's taking out the infrastructure, not the people. The intent isn't to kill the people. It's to take out the infrastructure that they can use to transport military equipment and military personnel to the eastern or to the eastern part of Ukraine. Okay, so the Russians have to take that out. They have to degrade their ability to fight, and I understand that. It's a bad thing. It's sad, but hell, we did it to Baghdad, And it was okay. We were there to free the Iraqis from the horrible Saddam Hussein, right? And we killed millions of people in Iraq, saving them their freedom. Sort of like we saved all those kids at Waco who were supposedly victims of child abuse, Waco, Texas. And we ended up bombing the damn place and burning it down. Oh, that's saving the kids, all right. But that's your government. That's NATO. Yeah, I'm pretty hot under the collar because this, I can see what's happening here. Operation Gladio. Look that up. The Red Army out of Italy. NATO put together a pseudo terrorist organization to kill innocent Europeans so that they could blame it on Russia. This was back in the 70s and 80s. That's what your people do. So, this missile bombing campaign has been going on for some time from Russia into Ukraine. Well, the last couple of days, it's intensified to some extent. They're hitting even Kyiv. Well, guess what? At least 2 of the missiles that struck Ukraine were launched from a Russian bomber. Where? Above the Arctic Circle. You can't even see it on my map. Above the Arctic Circle. They were probably up here in the Barents Sea, or maybe the Kara Sea. I doubt they were in the Norwegian Sea, probably the Barents Sea, up above the Arctic Circle. Do you realize why they did that? They did that to prove that they can reach out and touch you, no matter where you are. Conventionally, not even nuclearly, not even from satellite platform-based weapon systems. They can reach out and touch you. They can touch Ukraine. They can touch Kyiv, which is here on the map if you can see where I am. They can touch Kyiv from way up here above the Arctic Circle. Would they do that to the United States? Those idiot assholes in D.C. are trying to make it happen. I don't want to talk about the 26 labs, okay? All that we know about. Something even bigger is coming down the pike, and you better get focused. Prep, pray, stay out of the way, all that stuff. The Russians already have the information on the biolabs, and the Western governments are totally ignoring it. All the information is coming out about all this on that business. And nobody, even in our government, very few, maybe a handful, are saying anything about it. So right now, you already know you're being lied to on that and it's being ignored, okay? Because they don't give a shit about you. Matter of fact, they want you dead. But this, what's happened in the last few days, what Lavrov has said, what Medvedev has said, they're Russians in the hierarchy of the Russian government, even Putin himself and some others, because this pseudo Article 5 has been instituted, not officially, but for all practical purposes it is. Russia knows that they are at war with NATO, and they've said so. And now, if they don't take the initiative, they're going to have a problem. They can't be gentle like they were and they really were when they went in last February, a year ago. That's why things went so slowly. And they're going slowly now, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. Brian Berletic did a very good example of how this is progressing as far as the Russians are concerned. Quite a few videos back where he drew a map a little better than mine, and he showed axes of advance and lines of defense and things like that. I'm not going to get into that kind of tactical detail. I'm going to look at it from a strategic point of view. So just say this is Ukraine, okay? I know it's not exact. I know that. Baltic Sea is, or the Black Sea is down here, right? And you've got Belarus here, Russia on this side. There's Crimea, Odessa's there. Romania, Moldova, Slovakia, and Poland, okay? Surrounding that. And these are NATO already. Oh, that's not good enough. They got to get Ukraine to be right on the Russian border. So Russia needs to push them back. They're over here right now. The big battles are happening basically in this part of the country, just east of the Dnieper River, and what's the Donbass, Lugansk regions. Okay, this is Donetsk here, approximately. A lot of fighting going on in this area. Okay, Russians are trying to protect Crimea. Now, this is the problem. They've realized that they can't just stay here. They can't just take care and liberate the Russian-speaking population in the Donbass, Luhansk regions, all of that, because NATO's hell-bent on building up here on the western side, and whether or not the plan is to go east, although I'm certain it is, the Russians have to anticipate that that's what is going to happen. So they're going to have to do two things. They're going to have to interdict the supply lines of these weapons coming into Ukraine, which may mean that they're going to have to attack places like Poland, Moldova, and Romania, and possibly even as far east as Lisbon, Portugal. And if they can fire a hypersonic missile from the Arctic Circle and hit Kyiv, they can certainly fire, even with our air defense systems aren't that great, they could do the same thing from the Arctic Circle above Canada and hit DC or any other part of the country they want to. Do I want to see that? No. But those idiots in DC have caused us to be at this point. Because this fight for the Russians is existential. Because they already know. Because our side has said, I don't even want to say our side, it's not my side, but the NATO side, American side, has said they want to dismantle Russia. Make it out to be an evil country when they are called, the pot here is calling the kettle black. So this is what's going on. They can't stay here on the eastern side. They can't stay here. They can't stay there. Can't do it. So what's happening is a lot of people are saying, man, they're sure taking their damn time, going east. Well, there's a reason for that, and this is what I was going to tell you. You can't outrun your logistical supply trains. In today's warfare, the lethality is much too high. So they need their logistical trains to keep up with them, and they need to ensure that they have what's called ISR to protect them. ISR is intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. It's using, of course, all manners of intelligence information gathering. Surveillance, that would be like both from satellites and from drones, high altitude aircraft, whatever. And reconnaissance, that's getting down on the ground and checking things out. And that's really what they're kind of doing now. They're moving slowly east, and they have to make sure that they seize enough in this area that they can bring their logistical supply trains forward under the protection of defendable positions and ISR. Set up that defensive line, and it's a leapfrog thing. In the military, we call it traveling overwatch on a small unit level. In other words, it's like this. You have this unit and this unit. This one jumps forward, protects them. Then this one moves forward. Then they move up the supply trains. This one moves forward. They move up the supply trains more so that they can ensure that their logistical support stays intact. My estimation is this, that once they get to Kramatorsk, Seversk, I forget the name of it right now, not Seversk, Slavyansk, I think is the name of it. Once they get to that defensive line, and maybe before, it might be that once they secure this thing around Bakhmut on down the line here, once they figure they've got that so that they can get their supply trains to get into this area and get set up so that they can make a launch further into the country. That's what we're looking at. And they have to do it now. They really don't have any choice. And my estimation is they're going to go all the way to the Polish, Slovakia, Moldova, Romania border. They even hit Odessa again today. And Medvedev said that at this point in time, the way they're looking at it, they're not going to let Ukraine have a seaport. Odessa's gone. The evil people in this world have accomplished so much with this horrible thing that they've set up. They're wiping out the white Christians in Ukraine. Who are they getting it ready for? I'll leave that to your imagination. I've kind of hinted that in the past. Russia sees what's happening, and they're saying no. The Orthodox Patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church came out and said, this is the end of the world, and Russia's going to end it. Hopefully, what he meant by that was the order of the world as it sits now, the unipolar world with these demons running it for money, power, and to have control over your very thoughts. Something that we used to accuse Russia of doing. And we've become the enemy that we said we stood against. They're all in because they know it's an existential fight at this point. Now, the Western democracies, I hate to call them that, but really democracy basic, it's supposed to mean rule by the people, right? It's supposed to be what it means. But in reality, what it really is rule by demons. Because as the Duke of Marlborough said, I do not believe in the collective wisdom of individual ignorance. And that's what we've got in this place over here. And much of Europe. Listen to those MPs, those ministers of those parliamentary members in these different countries, and even the leaders of those countries talk. They sound like morons, idiots. They sound like the bully in the schoolyard who starts a fight, and then as soon as he gets a bloody nose, he cries foul. So the evil wins either way. Isn't it bad to be put in a catch-22 like that on our side? That no matter what happens, whether the entire, almost all of mankind is destroyed, or they win this thing against Russia and accomplish their purposes and then totally subjugate the world and put it under their banking system and their digital control and make you a robot, they win either way. So they're getting this line solidified so that they can bring their logistical trains up closer. And as soon as they do, you're going to start seeing that leapfrog thing. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. They're going to be very careful. They're going to make sure, as Colonel Douglas McGregor has explained, they're going to make sure that they have that security umbrella above the main battle force as it moves forward. That's the ISR, the Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance System. The United States has that too. But the air defense systems of Russia are much better up to the task than anything that we have. And just so you know, if you didn't, there are other things besides nuclear weapons that are almost as devastating. And Russia has all of that. They have the most powerful nuclear weapons on the earth, and I pray to God they don't use them. And at this point, they don't need to, okay? And they won't do it first unless they see the United States or some NATO country cock and load their nuclear weapons, which means they're going to launch it. In that case, boom. Hi, Liza Jean. Thanks for policing my room here. People don't understand how bad this is. Oh, Roy, you're a Putin apologist. You're a Russophile. No, I use reason and common sense, and I know the difference between right and wrong, and I will call it out, and I will do it even when it's inconvenient to do so. I've done it my whole life, and I'll do it now because your life and the lives of your loved ones are being thrown away by these idiots over here. And whoever they're listening to, be those rulers down here or some other creature roaming, the AI from CERN, who the hell knows where they're getting this. But it's been in their genes for a long time. They're the ones that have started all these wars over the years, and here we are. So don't you tell me that I'm on Russia's side, because I am. Because I see the evil coming from here. I don't want Russia to do what it's doing, but I have no power to stop it. I can just tell you what's coming. And it could very easily go nuclear or something similar. No reason to get mad about it. I know they've got. Well, that's what I'm saying. We can't hide behind we're just assisting Ukraine. No, the fact of the matter is we are a party to the war against Russia. I'm not going to calm down. You know what? You go out and sit on. What's your name? Clementa Rodriguez. I tell you what, Rodriguez. You go out and sit on. You put your kid on a train track out there, and you just sit and watch while a train comes, and you yell at your kid to get off the track, or don't. Just stay calm, Rodriguez, and don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're a psychotic. So that's what's happening. That's why they're doing this the way they're doing it right now. Brian Berletic gets into a lot of good information on that too, and so does Colonel Douglas McGregor. But as soon as they, and they might not even wait until Bakhmut is completed. Okay, they may not. The ground's frozen. There are people that are saying, oh, they're going to wait until spring. They'd be foolish if they do. They'd be foolish if they do. A lot of people say they have plenty of time. They're destroying the Ukrainian army. Well, my understanding is that up around the northern part of the Donbass, they've got the Ukrainians have 30,000 troops. What? That doesn't sound like they're. Now a lot of those have been conscripts that Ukraine has just taken out of the cities. People don't have any training, don't know what they're doing, but they're also NATO involved and other type of volunteers from other countries that are operating the weaponry there, including our own CIA. So it's not like it's a done deal that Russia can walk over them. They need to take their time. They need to be careful, but they can't delay. And that's why I'm coming on tonight, because they're not going to delay. They can't. Now, most of the hardware that the West has said they're going to send Ukraine isn't going to get there for a few months, some things not even for a year. And I think there's a little political ping pong going on there between Biden and the people in the U.S. and, say, Germany. But Germany's folded more than once. America and the United Kingdom destroyed the Nord Stream pipeline, and Germany still is taking orders from these people. Their people in Germany ought to rise up and grab Olaf Scholz and this foreign minister and anybody else and frickin' take them outside and tar and feather them and hang them from lampposts. Let the birds pick the flesh off their bodies. Damn. So that's my take on where we are on this. As soon as they're consolidated here, which I think is, they might not even wait until Bakhmut is done. I'm not certain about that. But frankly, they could bring their logistical trains up here and start moving forward and leveling everything in front of them that's military resistance. A A lot of the Ukrainians have already fled to Poland, to Russia, probably some other places. Belarus, probably not, but maybe. Mostly Poland, um, and in Slovakia, Germany, I think, too. Um, like I said, they're emptying this place out of good white Christians, just emptying it out, even before the major battle starts. Go read Revelation 18. And I'm going to say that that actually applies to what we're seeing here. Now, I'm not saying that this is the fulfillment of the prophecy. You know, I've always talked about that this whole thing is Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, this circular thought in the Middle East. It's type and shadow, and there's nothing new under the sun. What happened before rhymes today. Prophecy is really more of a science than it is something from God. I mean, you can see it through. I don't mean to say that God can't give information. What I'm saying is that you can see it in mankind's attitude, and it just repeats itself. And here we are, except now we can destroy the entire earth, which may have happened in past eons. As a matter of fact, I imagine BP Earthwatch would go along with me on that, because when in Genesis it says, the Spirit of God moved along the waters, and it was void. Void means it was cleaned out. It was emptied. And it started all over again. Yeah, we could cite a lot of scriptures. Thanks for bringing that up, Hector Heathcote, Jeremiah 51. Okay, that's all I really have for you. I wanted to let you know these few details because I think we're there. There could just be some saber rattling by the West to some extent. There could be some bluffing going on. But these things can get out of hand like right now. If you have somebody threaten to break into your house, you're staying in your house, but they're outside threatening to break in, you're going to sit there with your rifle, your pistol, whatever, right? And you're going to keep warning them not to come in. And they might be bluffing and they might never come in. But you have to be ready. And if they come through that door, you have only one thing left to do. They're in that position right now. No, never shoot through the door. You kill somebody outside of your house and you'll go to jail and probably never get out. Bad tactic. Hi, Laurie Tillman. How you doing? Bad tactic. For you to shoot somebody outside your house. Bad tactic. Go listen to Masada Ayub. He'll tell you about that. Not a good idea. Okay. All right. I guess I could take a few questions. I mean, why not, right? Why not? Again, go read Revelation 18. The people that are going to be killed by these evil folks are going to be crying to God for vengeance against them, and I hope they burn in hell. I should have some concern for them. I used to have a friend that said, if you see what their end result is going, this was a very spiritual man. He said, Roy, if you could see the end result of where these people end up and what happens to them, you'd be praying for them because you'll see how horrible it's going to be for them. But I'm sorry, I don't have that feeling. When I see what they're doing to the innocent people on the earth, I'm sorry, I think there's an old statement, may God have mercy on your soul, because I sure as hell wouldn't. And that's just the way I am. Okay. What other ways can they hurt us without nukes? A lot of those weapon systems are satellite-based platforms. Different type. I mean, you saw Star Wars, plasma weapons, laser weapons, lightsabers, that kind of thing. You've heard of rods of God, all sorts of things. There are all types of weapons. Right now, we're getting large DDoS attacks, as I said earlier. We're getting denial of service attacks all over, which could take out, communications that make sure you get your food every day, or that you can go to the bank and get your money out so you can pay your rent. Dues, yeah. Directed energy weapons, yeah. Which is probably what took out the Twin Towers, partially. I also know for a fact there were explosives in there. I got that from experts. No, I'm not going to name them. They were military people that realized what happened there. Yeah, false flags can happen. Sure, like I said, the evil people don't care if a lot of us die. They're not here to protect us. They're here to protect themselves. As Gerald Celente has said, and as I have said, and other people, they would just as soon destroy everything as to lose power. And when they think that they need to protect their interests, and there's no other way to do it, they take you to war, because that'll stupid people will say, oh, we got to support the government. We got to support our troops. We got to support our troops. Well, that's a good psyop. You support your troops by not putting them in harm's way unnecessarily. But that escapes people because they want to jump on the bandwagon of the MSM and their little cliches. George Bush said it all. When he said that the people in the Middle East hate our liberties, he didn't mean your liberty. He meant his liberty and his kind to take their sustenance from them, to kill them, and to take over their resources and their money and put them under our money system. That's the liberty he was talking about, which is the liberty that Lucifer tried. I'm just using the name Lucifer. That wasn't his name, okay? That Lucifer used in heaven during the war in heaven, which is now being mirrored, shadowed on the earth. It's the same thing. Remember what old Bush said? You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And guess what? There are scores and scores now of descriptions of terrorists that they use, and almost every American can be considered a terrorist under one of those descriptions that they use. And all they have to do to tell the public that grabbing somebody off the street is okay because they were a terrorist is using their definitions, which, as I said before, one of the first ones I heard, I don't know all of them now. I knew quite a few of them back then, but the one that stuck out was, you have no W-2 form, you own your own business, or you're independent, you work independently, you're self-employed. You have what's considered to be 2 weeks supply of food. That's very subjective. And you have a firearm in the house. By government definition, you are a terrorist. That's why they consider you all enemies of the state now. Because they're going to get you on one of those. One of the dozens, of scores rather, of their little petty descriptive definitions. It's legalese that's out of control, and the court system is bought and paid for, and they're not helping you. Any other questions? Yeah, the rods of God are really nasty. As a matter of fact, we may have used one in Shanghai Harbor back about 10 years ago or so, maybe not that long. I pray for God every day to take care of the enemies, but it's like I told you before, these things are not normally miraculous. They happen in a very natural way. Like Assyria took the northern tribes of Israel away, right? Or the Babylonians came in and took out Judah, took them into captivity. God uses what you see here. And these guys are going to do the job. These guys are at the door saying, we're going to come in, break in, and we're going to steal your goods. We're going to kill your family. We're going to put you in body bags. And Russia says, come on through the door. And we did. That's what we're doing in Ukraine. We came through the door. Yeah, they think we're useless eaters. And really, they're the ones that are useless eaters. They produce nothing. They create nothing. Can you see? I doubt very seriously whether Bill Gates plays any musical instrument whatsoever. He sure as hell can't sing. I'm certain of that. What does he create? Nothing but destruction. That's all he creates. And all those other guys, Soros, Klaus Schwab, Biden, Mike Pompeo, Pompous Pompeo, John Bolton, etc. Yeah, that's my thing too. Valkyrie 594. I look back in utter dismay that I had anything to do with promulgating this evil empire. But you know what? I look back on how I ended up there, and it wasn't entirely like I planned it out like that. It just kind of happened. I was a little naive, but I think the reason why I was there was so that I would know what I know today. Otherwise, it would be hearsay. I'd probably be like some of you on here saying, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, Roy." But I experienced it firsthand. I saw it firsthand. I've seen things from the pretenses of not-for-profit organizations that are really nothing more than money laundering operations for the rich and the politicians. And I've seen military people want war so they can get their next promotion and everything in between. I've seen police officers lie to make sure they get a conviction. The FBI being one of probably the worst doing that. Fidelity, bravery, and integrity. Gag me. Well, where's the modern generation Smedley Butler? Well, they've made sure they've purged their ranks. It's like I've said many times now. These general officers, there's nothing more than company men, yes men, to say what the politicians want. That's how they get promoted. There was a female general that came out the other day and said, "Oh, Venezuela and some of these other countries ought to be sending their weapons to Ukraine." The moronic bitch. And I use some very descriptive words to describe her. I wonder if I could say it here. I said she was brown-nosed and buck-toothed. And that's how she got where she is. And from what she said, it was real obvious I was right. Yeah, of course, they'll blame the dollar crash on the world. They're doing that. They're already blaming Russia for everything they're doing now. Klaus Schwab told you what they were going to do, and that was before the war started, that they were going to make you eat bugs and live in a 200 square foot little box, no transportation, and you're going to be happy. You're going to own nothing, and you're going to be happy. They already told you long before Russia did this. Biden's been wanting to shut down oil production for decades. And not to help the environment. No, to put you in subjugation, to make you buy into the new industries. Not a gradual transition. No. And now, supposedly they're in a war, right? You think that they're in a war, they'd open up the Keystone Pipeline now, and he would not have vetoed this HR 51 or 21 or whatever it was to open up drilling again. We're at war. He wants you to lose. Prima facie. How are they going to fuel the Abrams tanks? They're gas guzzlers like Jimmy Carter would have been really upset. The ships that have to take this stuff across to there, or the planes, the C-5As that'll fly some of this stuff, or whatever. It takes fuel, and it's not wind energy. Or some little thing on the electrical grid. How are you going to do that out there? It's all a lie, all of it. Every last little bit of it is a lie. And nobody, not really, is standing up against it. Our own military should be, and our own law enforcement officials should be arresting these treasonous bastards, and they won't do it because they're in on the program. Yeah, that's true. I'll admit it. Steve Hall says combat vets clearly had very poor judgment fighting for these criminals and pedophiles. I knew about the pedophile problem many years ago, but I didn't know it was pervasive it is, and I got a real education. And I'm very sorry now. As anybody who's followed me for a long time, you know I've said it. I'm distraught over the fact that I had anything to do with supporting this evil, evil empire. And a lot of vets understand that too at this point. When you're young, and again, I understand the young people wanted to, be supportive of good, right? I understand that. There is no good, ladies and gentlemen. Don't allow your kids to enter the service, the military. Don't let them do it. And if they're in now, tell them to take every opportunity that they can get out without a problem. Whether their ETS is coming up, or, if they've got some medical issue that they can get discharged on, or anything where they don't have punitive action taken against them, judicial or non-judicial punishment. If they can get out, do it. And if you let your daughters join, shame on you, putting them into that. Oh, but they want to. That's their decision. Well, that might be, but you don't have to go along with it. You can tell them straight to their face, don't you dare do that. For the reason that it's an evil government. Number two, women shouldn't be there. They don't listen. They've confused the genders now, the sexes now. Hey, it's all confused. Men are women, women are men. There are how many genders, I've been warning about this since the government and the LDS Church did to me what they did in the 80s. I said that we would reach this point. We are Sodom and Gomorrah. And I'm not talking about men and women relationships. Those go up and down and sideways and all kinds of things. I'm not talking about that. A lot of people try to throw those into Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's not what it was. By the way, Gonzalo Lira had a tweet. I think it was yesterday, and and sorry, ladies and gentlemen, plug your ears if you don't want to hear this. If you have little kids in the room, kick them out for a second, block their ears or whatever. But he was trying to equate what happened to Onan and Tamar in Genesis with self-gratification. Let me put it that way. Sexual self-gratification, and it's not. That's not what the onanism was about. Onanism was refusing. It wasn't his spilling his seed upon the ground, wasting it. That's not what it was. It was his refusal to give his dead brother's wife a child. That was the issue. So I told Gonzalo that. I didn't hear from him. Catholics don't want to hear this thing. They want to go with this concupiscence thing in the New Testament, which is wholly unscriptural. Paul threw that out there. I don't even want to get involved in it. Those showed up in the New Testament for reasons that just aren't worth even talking about anymore. Yeah, Gates is playing God. Of course he is, and he thinks he is. Anyway. Oh, and then I had a commenter come on Twitter and castigate me for my video on. I was asked by Watchful and Alert. Somebody follows me on here and on Twitter. Well, there you are, right there. Watchful and Alert. Hi. Yeah, you were the one that asked me about the the thing with marijuana, right? You wanted to know about the kana bossum, bossum, kana bossum. When I wrote that down in Twitter, I misspelled it. I said bellum. I meant besom. That's really how it sounds. It's kane basem, which is the base. A lot of people argue for the word cannabis, and you know about that. Anyway, I had this guy come in. He was from some outdoor organization, or he's an outdoorsman of some sort up in Idaho and Montana. And he comes out and he says, "Yeah, you're saying that Jesus, smoked pot, and you're no Christian, and you're a horrible person and all that." And I never said Jesus smoked pot. I said he used it as a healing herb, like they do so many other herbs. But I want to thank you, Watchful and Alert, for bringing that subject up. I hope I covered it well, and I hope I show you that there is a question between cinnamon and cannabis. Okay, that or the hemp plant. There is a question there. They're both those leafy, stalky type of plants, and so it could go either way. But I lean with you. I think that that's exactly what it was because it fits some of the events that happened in the New Testament when some of these herbs were used. Okay, so I go along with you, and I think you know that. Oh, and thank you. You also put up a diagram on Twitter from the Hebrew and then some of the other things that show how they interrelated. Kind of what I did on my short, not very extensive explanation, and I really appreciated that. I saved it, so thank you very, very much. That was very kind of you. Oh, you mean Lindsay? Oh, you're calling him Leslie. Lindsey Graham's always been a problem, and Trump makes him his election guy. I think Trump is being left there to allow people to show how stupid they are. Yeah, Kissinger is a problem, obviously. Yep. Klaus Schwab said he got everything he got from Kissinger. Yeah, I know. Mike Pompeo is Trump's pole dancer. That's pretty good. I like that. Okay. All right. I've been going for over an hour now, and of course I couldn't answer everybody's questions. I never can. I'm so disgusted too. But you know what? That shows who we are. All right. This is the time of the great dividing, and the fact that you don't go along with this. The fact that you do call them out. The fact that you are here, and if you're listening to the Duran or Brian Berletic or Douglas McGregor or Gerald Salente or any of these people, David Knight, etc., and then you help to spread that information. You are in here. You are showing who you are, and that's really what this is about. A long time ago, and I talk about this a lot of times, and those of you who've been with me, I say that the reason why we see sins and shortcomings in others is so that we can examine ourselves and see if we find those same faults so that we can correct them. But we have to, we you have to be willing to do that, and most people just aren't. So when I see people like John Bolton, when I see people like Lloyd Austin, Mike Milley, Biden, Trump, even certainly Klaus Schwab, Harari, what Kissinger, etc. I see what they are, and the very first thing I do is I get disgusted. I get upset, admittedly. But then I turn around and I look and I say, am I exhibiting any of those same faults, sins, shortcomings, deceits, lies, even murderous thoughts? Yeah, Victoria Nuland. Yeah, big problem. Big problem. She's a war criminal as far as I'm concerned. All right. It's been over an hour. I didn't actually want to take this long. My major concern was I wanted to tell you that we're at the door. Russia cannot let this. I mean, they might be a little patient to take out more of the Ukrainian army, but remember, Okay? NATO built the strongest army in Europe in Ukraine for the express purpose of attacking Russia. And Russia had every right as soon, actually, they had the right back in 2014 when Kyiv started shelling the Donetsk and the Luhansk republics who wanted to separate. And now the United States says, oh no, that was a false election. And yet they'll back Kosovo leaving Serbia. And Lavrov has pointed that out, the hypocrisy of the U.S. position. Hey, BP Earthwatch, Germany got hit with major cyber attacks today. Yes, I know. By the way, Jesse, I meant to send you a text. I've seen your last few videos, and that was an excellent one. Very good. And all of your other information that you've shown. I know you're getting that from some other websites, and that's good. But just so you know, I've been corroborating what you put up with other information from some of the places I go, and you're right on the money. Okay, you're right on the money. Thank you for doing what you do. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for being here. All right, that's all I got. I'm not going to go any further, I think, tonight. I think that should be it. I could talk a lot about all the other things that are going on, of course, but this is existential. this is the deal right here. Okay, so they're consolidating. They're moving the line forward so they can bring up their logistical supply trains so that they can do a march to the west. And at this point in time, it wasn't their original idea. They didn't want to do this. They thought they could negotiate it to get these republics over here free and clear from these bastards in Kyiv and NATO. But now as they see it, they're going to have to go all the way to the west. And that's what this is about. They may not end up, they may just go as far as Odessa, but they're going to have to take Kyiv at this point. They're going to have to. The evil in Kiev cannot be allowed to continue to exist. I don't know, Kamala, you know, she's about as an idiotic a person as I can imagine, so she'd fit in for what the deep state wants as far as being able to tell her what to do. So she'll probably get in, at least for a short time. How long? I don't know. Trudeau, yeah, he's a problem too. I think it's interesting, you know, and somebody made a point of this on Twitter. The people of the country pay for law enforcement, and law enforcement protects these politicians who are taking away the people's liberties. Who hires those law enforcement people? The people do. And yet they very rarely, if ever, support them. A few sheriffs in Illinois are standing up to Pritzker, the governor, on the Second Amendment attack. Sure. But that's few and far between. You don't support the blue just because they're the thin blue line. You don't support the troops just because they're in the military. It depends on what they do. What they do determines whether you support them or not. All right. Eyes on the horizon, ears to the ground. This is going. It's going to happen. We may even see worse than DDoS attacks in the United States. Situational awareness on high. Continue to prep, pray, but that's to get your own heart and mind in line with the truth. Prep, pray, and stay out of the way. We'll see you later. Take care. Read Revelation 18. Now, right after you leave here, read Revelation 18. I don't care if you believe in preterism, that all that happened, because it did, most of it. But the principle of the you turn around, nothing new under the sun, type and shadow is real. And what you see in Revelation 18 is where this is all going to go. Yes, it's already on U.S. soil. I think we've seen our electrical grid already attacked. I think those were probably Russian or Chinese agents doing that. And again, I can't blame them. Those were warning shots across our bow. Warning shots across the bow. Totally legitimate when we're helping, when we're actually physically on a side that's fighting Russia. shots across the bow are legal and lawful and morally correct. Y'all take care out here.